Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about satisfaction. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, would you say that for software engineers that positive feelings associated with getting a raise is only temporary and long-term satisfaction is more closely tied to personal development? Well, no, I wouldn't say so. I would say it's more complicated than that. So the thing is, it's difficult to say what people take pride in because it's. I know pride might be something that might be bad, but it's also something that is very important. It it's a fundamental, like a bad pride is one thing, like hubris and arrogance and all this good stuff, right? But being proud over what you have achieved and what you know and how well you can perform is something more. It's more complicated than saying that one thing is less value than the other, because the way that people measure success is the thing that usually has the biggest determining factor on how satisfied they are. So you can almost think of it as a high score. You have some people who are very, I mean, if we take the negative of this, of course, you have people who are very uh, arrogant, or like they're very rich, like the classic rich asshole that everybody hates type of person. But then you have the elitist intellectual. You can go that route as well and say like that there are people who are like they're very smart, or they have a very fancy degree or something like that, and they talk down to people because they're so good at this thing, etc., etc. Anything that you get extraordinarily good at, or very good at the very least, is something you can turn into a negative. And it really only it starts as a positive emotion because you're doing well. And this ties back to what I call the scale. And the scale is just this thing. I'm sure that there's some better construct for this, but it's my mental tool that I usually use to sort of understand myself and how people usually think. And it comes down to the scale is just where do you find yourself in comparison to other people. That's really what it comes down to. And if the thing that you are valuing, like it's an individual thing, is the thing that you make that is to you success, is how much money you make, then personal development is less of a factor. It's not the thing that is most important, it's how much money you're making or much wealth you're accumulating. Just as people who measure how many people they are responsible for, like that's another one. How important are you, if that makes sense? Does that give you the satisfaction that you're looking for, etc., etc.? And some people are like myself, who feel like my satisfaction is coming from that I know everything. That I don't really know everything, I promise you that much, but I know that my skills are have grown to a point where I feel very comfortable with a lot of stuff. I feel the opposite when I don't really know. I feel frustrated when I don't know how to do things. And so this is not something that I can really tell you. I don't think anybody knows what it is that, I mean, it's an extremely complicated thing to determine what is going to have a positive, like a long-term positive impact on you. And I think it is a measurement, like it's a measure of how well you are overall doing, if that makes sense. So you have, I would say that it's sort of a question of what will be more important, because I can't, like, to me there are people who are of course extreme and who will go and say that I don't care about money whatsoever, only thing I care about is, you know, personal development. And I kind of say, yeah, that's great, but there is a pain point for you when your sensation of being undervalued is probably going to rear itself, and you're going to start feeling as if you are so good at this thing, but you're getting paid, say, peanuts, or like you're barely making a living wage. Why are you going through all that hard work for something that you don't get any gratification from? Unless, as I said, you are only getting gratification from the fact that you are able to do something, which can be the case. But usually people have some idea of their own personal value, and money as an example, is a factor in that. It's a very normal thing, because it's a way for you to measure your own value, and that is the thing that I argue is the thing that determines everything. It's the thing that gives you long-term satisfaction. What do you use, or what metrics are you using to determine your own personal value and your own personal success? And that it is as simple as that, really, at least in my opinion. So what I want you to take away from this is that I don't think that it's as easy as saying that long-term satisfaction comes from personal growth or from money. I think it's a measure of both. I mean, personal development is very likely to be something that is more, it's going to lead to more positive things in your life than having a very like a really large amount of money, if that makes sense. Because at some point unless you are, I mean, guys, at some point the amount of money you have, depending on how much we're talking about here, has less of a, well, it doesn't matter more. Then your growth will stagnate. Even if you were to be like, one of the richest people on the planet, that doesn't actually mean that you can get more from it, if that makes sense. You can you have such quantities of money that it's unlikely that, apart from your own ego, where it might actually become a very destructive thing for you, it's not going to bring you more satisfaction to have, I mean, as I like to ask people, what for the average human who doesn't have world domination on the mind, what is the difference of having $10 billion and $100 billion? Like if your unless your goal is to, as I said, like you have some very specific agendas, you can't spend that amount of money. Like it's not gonna, I mean, then at some point there's going to be like a competition between the richest people on the planet. Like maybe the multi-billionaires are comparing themselves to, how much money do I have compared to somebody else, and I go, you're in the top 0.01% or whatever of the richest people in the world. It seems weird that, I mean, at least to me it seems weird that you would that having yet another billion is going to add to your sensation of satisfaction. Maybe it will, but I argue at some point you're going to look for other ways to stimulate yourself and to get satisfaction, and I think that is the thing that most people are on the hunt for. The next thing that's going to make you feel like a more complete person. And personal development is a much bigger area than income, if that makes sense. Income is important. I think we can all agree that you need to make a decent amount of money in order to enable yourself to go and find yourself, or to afford to do other things, if that makes sense. But the area of personal development is so vast that it could include so many things that the odds of you finding long-term satisfaction is higher if you pursue something like that than if the only thing you're focusing on is how much money can you possibly make. That's going to develop you to a certain point, but at some point I think you're reducing your complexity as a human to one metric, when the reality is probably that for you to be a happy overall individual, you probably need a few things in your life rather than just one thing to be very proud of. Have a great day.